going to call the October 16th, 2017 Board
Are you okay?
of Selectmen's meeting to order. Is anybody taping the meeting?
Free cam.
Free cam and the Board of Selectmen as well. At 6 o'clock, we have a Board of Health variance. At 6:15, we have the pinning ceremony for Kaylin Joe's full-time patrolman. At 6:30, we have a presentation of the Police Gallantry Star Medal to Officer Thomas Long and Officer Patrick Lee. We have several things under our Board of Selectmen agenda. Discussion from Patriot Half Marathon regarding a road closure for the road race in June. Approved Chapter 90 request for milling, paving Gurney Road and Washburn Road. Sign a proclamation for America's Safe Schools Week. Discuss a letter sent by DCR. Approve a sign and opening permit for a gas line on 8 Cross Avenue. Town Administrator's Report. Discuss goals for David DeMacho, our Town Administrator. Approve ambulance abatements. Approve the Board of Selectmen's minutes. Reappointment under Personnel for Lori Dismaris and Kevin Dismaris to the Cultural Council. And then we have new business after that. And we have a lengthy executive session as well. So without further ado, I'd actually like to call Kaylin up here for a minute and just do the Pledge of Allegiance for us. Lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So everybody would stand and do the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I know it's spur of the moment. 6 p.m. Board of Health variance for 124 Richmond Road.
Hi, my name is Steve Whitman from the Septic Engineering, representing the homeowner at 124. We're in front of you with a septic repair that's already been in front of the conservation. They've got approval. Very limited area with wetlands and abutting wells, and we're asking for 3 local upgrades. That we're asking for. One is for the septic system to be allowed to be less than 20 feet from the existing foundation. Once again, because we don't have any room from existing well. We're keeping the system exactly 100 feet from the abutting well, and that requires us to be about 16 feet from our foundation wall, as opposed to 20. So we're asking for an upgrade there. We're also asking for an upgrade to water table. We'd like a relief to 3 feet to water table instead of required 4 feet. What that allows us to do is not have that much fill around the system, and not have a pump, and not have a mound in the yard. Basically allows us to keep a gravel system, and that would be much preferable if we could. And the third thing that we're seeking is to use a sieve analysis instead of performing a percolation test. When we did the perk tests, we had water weeping in at about 50 inches, so water was running into the hole. And we had about 6 feet of fill, so we had to perk below 6 feet, so we'd be perking about 7 feet or so, where the water's weeping at 50 inches, and it's not allowable really to do a perk test.
Do you have the plans?
Yes, I do.
Can you bring them forward? And I'm going to turn it over to the Board of Health, which is Charlie Sullivan. Do you have any green cards?
I thought you had plans. No, we didn't have to notify butters because we're not affecting any butters.
Okay. Go ahead, Charlie.
I'll call the hearing to order, and I will ask if there are anyone here who would like to put to the community itself. Anyone from the community itself?
We'll share.
Sorry, I thought you
Yeah,
had- I
no,
thought you
we'll
had
share.
plans.
I don't see a line from your existing well on
Yeah,
the,
here's our abutting well right here, which, as you can see, this property line was cut around so that the well could stay on this lot. And here's a 100-foot radius right there. You can see that circle.
okay, so
Yeah,
that,
right up against the septic system.
instead of doing a line of sight, you just
Yeah.
did a radius.
Yeah, it's right up to the septic system, so we're maintaining that 100 feet that they need. And we've also actually got 100 feet to our well. Here's our well radius right here, so we don't have much room to put the system, but we have wetlands right here. And the system's proposed to be about 58 feet from the wetlands right now, and again, conservation has already approved this plan.
A 3-bedroom home staying at 3 bedrooms?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that part of the conditions to maintain 3 bedroom?
Deed
It is,
restriction for the,
okay.
is it going exactly where the old system was?
No, it's not. Actually, the old systems, believe it or not, the old system's over here. It came under the driveway, and the old system is existing right here, which is well within
Yeah.
their well radius.
Okay.
And we really don't have room there.
So you're replacing everything, the D-box, the field, the
Correct.
tank, everything?
Yeah, we're actually coming out on a different side of the house and, bringing it to the opposite side of the house. So it'll be a whole new system.
Yeah, that's because
Right now, it goes into a cesspool, into a leaching area that might even go across the
your
property
slope's running down into this wetland area, that's why you're having problems with getting birds.
line. And there's a lot of fill on the property. It's a lot of fill.
Recommendation from the Board of Health agent?
It seems like it'll be okay. I'm okay with it.
Anyone from the public? That being so, I'll close the hearing part of the portion. I'll take the motion.
I'll make a motion to grant the variances for the 15 feet from the cellar wall, the 3 feet above the water table, and to use the SIP analysis. However, I don't see on the plan where it specifically states 3-bedroom. So if you make that as a deed restriction for 3 bedrooms going forward,
That's fine, yep,
that's my motion.
okay.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want those, or?
We have, how many plans do we need? Derek, how many sets of plans do we need?
Wait.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Fred.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have 5 minutes.
You want to do ambulance abatements, or
Yeah, let's do the annual, ambulance
those are
abatements.
usually pretty easy?
So ambulance abatements for the month of October to December 2016, and also Comstock for the month of September 2017, as submitted by the fire chief.
As soon as I find it, I will do it for you.
Yeah, I couldn't get my thing to do that. Good talking.
All right. I'll make a motion to accept the ambulance abatements for October through December 2016 in the amount of $54,069.22.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next one is submitted by the fire chief for Comstar. It is for contractual allowances for the month of September 2017. It is to be made as specified in the amount of, the aggregate amount of $49,462.21 with a write-off for the period ending September 30th, 2013 in the aggregate amount of $8,111.13 for a total of $57,573.34.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Still have 4 minutes.
Guess I spoke a little fast.
No. Do you want to do the chapter 90 request? Is Chuck coming?
I
in?
don't think Chuck's here.
Huh?
You got any issues?
He's not coming until 6.
Yeah, I actually passed him away, so I
Yeah, go ahead, just minutes.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes for meetings for October 23rd. No, we're ahead of myself here. Okay, for October 3rd.
Third, yep.
Just the third.
Just the 3 and the 3rd. Okay, yes, well, for the 3 sets of minutes on October 3rd.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I have a second with discussion on the October 3rd at 1 p.m. minutes. Can you reflect that I was not present and I abstained from the procedures?
Yeah.
Thank you. So that was a second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We can't start till 6:15 because it's on the agenda that way, and if we start earlier, we can be in violation of open meeting law, so we're really trying to be conscious of not getting in trouble. So that's why 6:15, that's when we can start. So we're just trying to get through some other stuff so we can just devote
Cause Avenue.
more attention. It's fine with me.
Cause Avenue.
Comments? That's why we're kind of jumping around a little bit here, just to...
for the road opening on Cars Avenue for the gas service, I would make a motion that we allow the
Is there anybody here to speak to that at all?
No, it's an Eversource.
Okay. So it's just, all right.
It's just a sidewalk.
I read it, but I, okay. I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, 6:15. It's awful. Things have changed, believe me.
I had most of these people in school, didn't
Hey,
you? Not saying that you're old.
I still have hair.
Heard a little.
All right, we'll call, Chief Abbott up here, please.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chief.
I'd like to start out tonight by introducing our new police officer, Kaylin Joes. Kaylin, if you would step up, please. So Kaylin is a graduate of Apponequet High School. She's a town resident. She continued her education at Salem State University, where she received a Bachelor in Science degree. She comes from a public safety pedigree. Her dad is the harbor master and served on the fire department. Her uncles, Robert and James, served as paramedics and police officers respectively. Her grandfather, Arnold, served on the fire department. And her grandmother, Sue, was a dispatcher for many years and was our first female police officer and set the standard, which is a very high standard for you to try to follow. Kayla was appointed as an auxiliary police officer in January of this year, and she did something kind of unusual. She self-sponsored herself to the police academy. So that meant she paid her way, she found housing up in the Reading area where the academy is located, and she went through, how many weeks, Kaylin?
23.
23 weeks of academy training. So at this point in time, I would ask whoever you have present to do the pinning to come forward and pin the patrolman badge.
Lost that one. Jim.
Yes.
I would now ask our town clerk, Jackie Brown, to administer an oath of office.
You raise your right hand. Do you, Kaylin Jones, solemnly swear and affirm that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent on you as a police officer patrolman according to the best of your abilities and understanding, agreeably to the rules and regulations of the Constitution, the laws of this Commonwealth and the town of Freetown, so help you God? Congratulations.
So to the board, I introduce our new officer, and congratulations, Kaylin.
Oh, you make us proud.
I'd like to just add one fact here. Actually, Kaylin is the fourth generation of Josephs to serve on the police department. And I find that extremely remarkable, and especially that it's all in the same community. So I'd just like to make that point.
We're not in a rush for the fifth generation.
we'll do, the next, and then we'll take a 5-minute recess to do pictures. Okay?
So would you like to defer the awards till 6:30, or what's your plan?
Mm. Good question. Says 6:30.
Is that what it says, 6:30?
Yeah.
All right, we'll wait till 6:30.
Okay. So we're just gonna take a couple more things, and then we're gonna do, 2 awards from the police department as well, and then we're gonna take, some pictures, and then have a 5-minute recess, so everybody can chit-chat. All right. Discussion with Mark Walter from Patriot Half Marathon regarding the road closure for the road race in June of 2018. Are you here? Not you? Okay. He is not here. I will go into sign proclamation. A lot of empty space here.
Well, we're kind of flipping through.
I know. Here it is. All right, so this is a proclamation for America's Safe Schools for the week of October 15th through the 21st of 2017. The town of Freetown's proclamation will be, whereas schools make substantial contributions to the future of America and to the development of our nation's young people as knowledgeable, responsible, and productive citizens. Whereas excellence in education is dependent on safe, secure, and peaceful school settings. Whereas the safety and well-being of many students, teachers, and school staff are unnecessarily jeopardized by crime and violence, such as substance abuse, gangs, bullying, poor discipline, vandalism, absenteeism in our schools. And whereas it is the responsibility of all citizens to enhance the learning experiences of young women by helping to ensure fair and effective discipline, promote good citizenship, and generally make the school safe and secure. Whereas all leaders, especially those in education, law enforcement, government, and business should eagerly collaborate with each other and the National School Safety Center, a partnership of the U.S. Department of Justice and the U.S. Department of Education to focus public attention on school safety and identify, develop, and promote innovative answers to these critical issues. Whereas numerous schools and school districts throughout the country, along with national programs, are among those innovative answers. Whereas the observance of America's Safe Schools Week will substantially promote efforts to provide all of our nation's schools with positive and safe learning climate. Whereas all state governors, attorney generals, superintendents of school instruction, and legislatures, as well as the President, Attorney General, Secretary of Education, and Congress of the United States, all state and federal judges, civic, fraternal, legal, government, and professional associations, and all students in education in America's schools are encouraged to formally adopt similar resolutions and proclamations so that we may enthusiastically work together to our nation's safe schools, secure and peaceful places for learning, teaching, and working, free of drugs, alcohol, weapons, and fear. Now therefore, we, the members of the Freetown Board of Selectmen, by virtue of the authority vested in us, do hereby proclaim October 15th through the 21st, 2017, as the America's Safe Schools Week in Freetown, and urge all of our citizens to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. In the witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hands and cause to be affixed by the seal of the town of Freetown in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the 16th day of October, the year of our Lord, 2017.
I'll make a motion to endorse and seal.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
I thought that was gonna take longer.
You did well here on twos and stuff.
Okay, do you wanna talk about the DCR letter?
Sure.
Okay, so we've received a letter from DCR in keeping with the provisions of 301, Chapter 51, we would like to inform you that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, acting through its Department of Conservation and Recreation, has under consideration the acquisition of an interest in approximately 631.72 acres of land or other property interest therein, in the town of Freetown. The property is currently an undeveloped woodlot. The proposed use for the property will be protected open space, adding to the total acreage of the adjacent Freetown State Forest. Enclosed, I'm sure you all saw the Exhibit A, which is a map of the property which DCR is interested. The applicable regulations require that an agency proposing to acquire the property announce its intentions in a public forum, as this. To comply with this requirement, we ask that the board announce that the Commonwealth is considering the acquisition, which we are now doing, and the board needs to take no formal action on its part. Just please document the announcement on the enclosed form and return it to the DCR. Should the DCR decide to pursue this acquisition, it may be necessary to complete the transaction in less than a 120-day notice period otherwise required. We therefore ask for you to agree to this reduction in time and indicate your approval of the reduction of the waiver on the form herewith. Should you have any questions regarding this matter, kindly contact Michael Harris, Director of Government Affairs. So it just says, the certificate just says, the clerk of the Select Board of Town of Freetown do hereby certify this date. It was announced at a public meeting that I just read, that the Department of Conservation and Recreation might acquire an interest in the parcel of land. And also that on behalf of the board, that we waive the 120-day notice. What is the board's pleasure?
Do we know exactly where this I see the parcel.
It's off Chase Road.
It's off of Chase Road.
Yes.
So this is the parcel they've been working on for a while there?
Actually, I'm meeting with a representative from DCR, Robert Coventer, on Wednesday morning at 9:30. We're going to discuss the lots that are currently being considered, several of the lots, the smaller lots in particular. They had difficulty with the title on, so they're going to make a further recommendation at some point that those lots be turned over to Conservation Commission.
Perfect.
All behind Laterno, Robbie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, make a motion to endorse the state's required form here pursuant to the Code of Massachusetts Regulations 301.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And to waive the 120-day notice period?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
I think we've exhausted our,
Pretty much used everything up.
because that guy's not here yet, right? No. Do you want to just do the chapter 90 money?
I don't think we need Chuck.
I don't think
Does
we
anybody? I don't have any issues to the milling of.
Stop throwing that at me.
I'm not throwing.
All right. So we have a chapter 90 request for milling and paving Gurney Road and Washburn Road as submitted by the highway surveyor. So the scope of the work is for the amount of $48,957.
So the total for all
For,
work.
but that was for Gurney Road, and the amount for Washburn Road is $70,859.70.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And now, I'm out of options.
The only thing I'd be curious, and maybe David, if you talk to Chuck, if he doesn't come in, what he has left in his Chapter 90 budget for the remainder of the year.
And the other thing is that Gurney Road, you need to let the bus company know too, because they may have to reroute, and that would be an additional cost, so I'd be curious to find out the answer to that question.
The date is I don't think there's a specific date assigned yet.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Carlton?
Yes.
We're good.
So tonight we have some awards, but before I call Patrolman Lee and Patrolman Longford, I'd just like to recognize some of the acts that our offices have been engaged with. And these offices were previously recognized, but I thought it was important to let the public know exactly what they've done. Sergeant Sweet Magnet and Patrolman Ryan Pereira were recently on the scene of an accident on Route 140 where they discovered a woman who was not breathing and she was unresponsive. They immediately began CPR and revived her and prolonged her life. Patrolman Christopher Medeiros, I believe he's here tonight, was dispatched to a medical emergency on Howland Road. He located a woman who wasn't breathing, was unresponsive, had suffered cardiac arrest. He deployed his defibrillator and was able to revive her and sustain her life. Officer Thomas Ashley, also here tonight, received a commendation for his establishment of a positive citation program. He partnered with a local ice cream shop, and children throughout the community are rewarded for good behavior, for example, wearing helmets while riding their bicycles, and they're issued a positive citation so they can get a free ice cream cone. Sergeant Scott Rose and Patrolman Mike Connell were monitoring radio frequencies when two armed robbery suspects were being pursued in a motor vehicle from Fall River. They entered Freetown. Our officers deployed stop sticks to bring the pursuit to a halt. One of the armed robbers escaped on foot, but Sergeant Rose and Officer Connell engaged in a foot pursuit and overcame him and apprehended him. And finally, Sergeant Benjamin Levesque spotted some smoke, eventually located its source. That source was the site of a house on fire. He was joined by Deputy Fire Chief Cardin, alerted the occupants to evacuate, and some of those occupants included minor children. So those are some of the more recent events. At this time, I'd like to call Patrolman Lee and Patrolman Long forward. Tonight we're going to be presenting the Police Gallantry Star Medal to these gentlemen. And let me just tell you what that award is about. It's awarded to a sworn officer for an act of distinguished bravery in the apprehension or attempted apprehension of a person who, based upon credible public information or law enforcement intelligence, poses a major threat to the welfare of the community and or officers. Important considerations include hazards encountered, initiative involved, level of threat presented in the encounter, and or if death or injury to a third party is prevented. Firearms and or edged weapons are usually involved, brandished, and or recovered from the person that's apprehended. So with that in mind, I want to bring you to September 5th, 2017. On that particular evening, there was a suspect in New Bedford who discharged his handgun within a New Bedford bar. He then proceeded to his home in Acushnet, where he armed himself with a shotgun, and he told his wife that he intended to murder a family member. After overhearing the police radio broadcast that the suspect was in a pickup truck and headed toward Rochester, Patrolman Long and Patrolman Lee strategically positioned their cruisers so that they could intercept this armed person. They were also keenly aware that the Rochester police most likely had one officer on duty, and it was going to be a real mess if something happened. In the meantime, the suspect had crashed his vehicle into a telephone pole, forced his way into a house, discharged his handgun inside the house, threatening the occupant. Patrolman Long and Lee were alerted to the crash and proceeded speedily to the location where they were joined by Rochester officers. There they discovered the suspect outside of the house, armed with two handguns, one of which the suspect discharged into the side of his vehicle. Despite repeated warnings to stop and drop the handguns, the suspect acted erratically and continue to approach these officers. They exposed the officers to real danger of gunfire. As the suspect closed on their position, they demonstrated remarkable restraint in not firing their weapons. The incident came to a tragic end when the suspect took his own life. So I want to thank you for your commitment and service. You're certainly a credit to the department. At this time, Detective Kelly. Congratulations. In addition to the medals, we have citations that accompany them as well. So let me just hand you this, and if you could. So that's the synopsis.
You know, I think we all feel safe that we live in a small town, and we don't realize that danger is around every corner and everywhere without even knowing. So these young men and women lay their lives on the line every single day for the safety of everybody in this town, and not only our town, but the surrounding towns as well. And I couldn't be more proud about the police department. So thank you all very much. We'll take a 5-minute recess.
Get up now, Spike.
5 minutes, right?
Great. Yeah.
Meeting back to order. Never shut it off. Okay, so we have a request for a road closing for Sun Multi-Sports for June 18th road race for a portion of Route 18 between Roundsville Drive and Route 18 in Morton from 8:30 to 12:30. It's a partial road closure. Southbound traffic on Route 18 Middleborough Road would normally flow, while northbound auto traffic would be detoured onto Roundsville Drive. But 18-wheelers would be permitted to continue northbound on Route 18. Anyway, you might want to explain this a little bit further for me, please.
And it's actually June 16th, which
Okay.
is a Sunday.
That was, all right. Thank you.
Sure. So just first, for those who don't know me, my name is Mark Walter. I'm the race director for the Patriot Half Triathlon, which is based at Cathedral Camp. We've been doing it there for 11 years, so our 12th year coming up. And what I am here tonight to do is to request approval of a partial road closure, or I guess maybe a tentative approval, because I know I would need to go to Mass DOT and also touch base with Rochester. I've distributed a document that kind of outlines what I'm looking to do, part of my communication plan. The second page of the document is a map that gives the detail of all the roads in the area, in case we want to talk about the detour and whatnot. And then the final page that you have in front of you is this sign that I put together, just so that you have a copy of it, and I figured it'd just be easier to have something large to speak to. But essentially, what I'm proposing is, so just to orient you all, this is Cathedral Camp up here, and then this road here is Route 18, and then here's Roundsville, which takes you up out into suburban neighborhoods. And what I'm trying to illustrate is the activity that's taking place during a portion of the day of the race. So what we have happening is the bike course, so this is a triathlon, so people swim, bike, run. They swim in Long Pond and then they go out on their bikes. The bike course is 2 loops. So they basically are going to leave Cathedral Camp, they do a big loop that brings them back over here off of Morton Road, where they go by a second time and then come back, and when they come back in, they go in the access road that's just past the church. So this is kind of where the church is. So that's what the blue arrows are indicating, the flow of bikes. Once they once they come back from the bikes, they go up into here, which is transition, which is, on this big field. Then the runners come out here, basically in another lane that we've divided here. They go out this little side road, the pastor's house is right here, right in front of that. They then cross over Route 18 and then down to Roundsville and turn left. They then go into the neighborhood here, down into, Acushnet, Rochester, and then they end up coming back, popping out, I think it's on Snippatuit, way down in Rochester, and then they come straight shot right down 18 and then cross back onto the Cathedral Camp. If you're familiar with it, this is where they have that kind of traffic circle, and then there's this big open field, which is what we use for parking. So that's how the runners come in, and during this, to date, there's been two-way traffic. So, when there's the most activity is when we have bikes still coming back in and runners starting to finish. So that's one of the things where, there's a lot of activity. So the policemen who, this blue dot with a black circle, this represents police details. So this detail, and this detail are ones we've always had. So, because we've always had, these runners crossing, so, we have the officer, holds up traffic here to get runners across if necessary. Same thing here to help with runners get across, and the same thing here with when the bikes are coming out onto the road. So that's all been, how it has been handled. So what I'm proposing is taking this section from here to here, Roundsville, which is a 0.6 of a mile, to take this down to one lane. And the reason being, basically, to make it, for two reasons. One, it reduces the amount of activity, which I think enhances the safety factor. And it also will make it easier for the police details to manage the activity, the cars, the bikes, because now they only have them coming in one direction. So the idea being that cars that would be, and here's my pretty weak graphic of a car, but the black arrows represent your cars. So you've got cars that would come down here, and with this cone line that we would put in, we would have it's be a very wide lane where the cars would come right down the middle and then continue on their way. So they're no more impeded than as they normally are. But then what we would do is we would have the cars that would normally drive up through here, we would have them come up here and then detoured down Roundsville. At which point they, can ultimately come back around to here, or they can go up Route 105, and that's the proposal. Another thing that I will throw out as another option, which I think, certainly looking for that feedback from all of you, how you feel. The other option is to do exactly what I've just described, but to not detour, and then just, for several minutes, let all the traffic come this way while you've got it stopped here, and then after, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, whatever it is, then you let all northbound traffic go. So you basically manage boat traffic in both directions, but only in one lane. So you only have it going south while you're holding up traffic, and then after, I'm sure we've all been through that on the road, when there's construction. So you let all of them go past, and then after a while, then this officer or traffic detail, we can get into who does what, but this person is in communication with this person that, okay, now let's let the northbound go. So then the southbound is halted, and then the northbound goes. So that's another option. I didn't, I guess I'm thinking, my original thought is, again, the detour makes it easier, but the impact of that is, the additional traffic through the suburban neighborhoods. So, one of the, what I would do, I know we're going to discuss this, but, I would certainly be alerting the few businesses that are on this road, the residents that are on this road, I would also do a postcard mailing to all the homes around Roundsville and Dr. Braley Road, who would, on that day see, extra car traffic. So it's probably maybe a good place for me to pause and take questions.
So let me hear from the police chief and the fire chief.
Well, in this particular model, when a tractor-trailer unit is going northbound, we really wouldn't want to send them down Roundsville Drive
Correct.
because of some of the acute turns, et cetera. If you've got an 18-wheeler, you may have some problems. Also, if an ambulance or fire apparatus was coming through, you wouldn't want to detour them down Roundsville. So in the first model, you'd have to make accommodation for the big rigs and emergency vehicles.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have said that, because I did highlight that on the first page based on the freight path.
But I'm thinking maybe that this second model might be more easier to actually implement, because you're not putting detours, et cetera. It's simply police officer A radios police officer B, stop traffic, and it flows and vice versa. Keep in mind that I'm sure Mass DOT is going to look at this, probably going to want signboards and all, additional type of warnings. But that's my initial reaction, Chief. But,
Well, experience the same thing you have, only my concern would be, you have bicycles on one side of the road and you have runners on the opposite side of the road.
Correct.
So as the cars are going down, they're splitting them, they got pedestrians basically on both sides of them,
The cars.
the cars do. Is
Right.
that gonna be?
Which is how it is now. It is really no different. We would, what I would do is, I actually do this, over the last few years.
Yeah,
When the runners come in, I do put this cone line there as a sort of a flag to cars, and also keeps the runners, I tell them they gotta stay to the left of the cone, so that works well. So what I would be doing here is extending it. I have a whole line extended here, not that we really need it, but, since they'd be, anyway, I put that in there. But, and then we don't normally have this whole line of cones on, between the bikes. It would, and I don't do that because, bikes sometimes are 2 or 3 across and they're supposed to go single file, and then when they're maneuvering and passing, I'd rather not have the cones in the lane. But if we took this down to 1 lane, then this bike lane could be wider. Versus, now, with 2 lanes of traffic, I wouldn't do it that way.
Questions from the board?
Well, yeah, I'm to Chief Sylvia's point. If you have runners on one side and bicycles on the other, now your drivers who are kind of in a little bit of a disarray, we'll say, because of this detour, they're gonna have to kind of thread the needle between your activity. Where if you could put all your activity into 1 lane, it may be easier for people to deal with because they don't really have to, though I'm sure they'll be looking at it, but they direct more of their attention to the normal side of the road. The other thing that
So just to stick with that thought, so that is an option, I guess, so I'll make sure I'm following it. If we got these runners, like at this section, over onto this side, and then basically this line of cones goes out, and then the cars are all the way on this side.
Right.
That way, that's...
yeah, picture all cars just in 1 lane
Yeah,
of travel.
yep.
And your cones could go right down that center lane.
Right.
And then everything over to the side of that
Yep.
would be.
Yeah.
The other thing is, personally, I would be afraid that they start looking at this activity, are they gonna sway into your other activity?
Right.
Where
Yeah.
they do that, they'll be off the road, it won't be, your runners wouldn't be in peril.
Just a couple
Yes.
quick questions. What's the road width here? Does anyone know the road width?
Well, I'm gonna say it's probably 26 feet wide. You've got 2 chapter 90 lanes, plus the white line and a couple of feet over the fog line.
So you think it's narrow as 26?
I mean, it's pretty, it's accommodating.
It's more of a question Chuck, but he didn't stay.
Details on this.
Your cone lanes, how wide are you proposing the cone lanes to be? Currently, what do you have, and what are you proposing these cone lanes to be?
So this cone lane has historically only been, the width of, probably 3 feet wide.
Okay.
Very, very short, very limited. I hadn't actually thought about the distance. If we go with this as 26, I mean, what would be a comfortable single car lane, I guess 13
Well, in
feet?
Massachusetts,
Or
a
10
car
feet?
can't exceed a width of 8.5 feet.
Okay.
So,
I think the minimum lane size though is 11 feet, 22 feet combined, something around there. Might be 10 and a half feet, because it's 21 feet, I think. So, no, that's more what I was asking is, did you already have those measured out so you could see how it was gonna fall out? And the reason for the closure this year versus in past years you haven't had the closure is because you want to do a closure specific, a bike lane this time specifically, where in the past you just let those two merge together.
Yeah, yeah. It's just one of those things that, again, every year I've seen it, some of the police details have suggested this same thing, this detail in particular, because that's kind of a hot spot.
yeah, that's a difficult.
So they have suggested, you should try to get this set to, one lane or shut down altogether, and, I don't think that's an option. I'm assuming that's not an option, because I know that's obviously a main thoroughfare.
Right.
I figured after this year's past event, I just said, I'm gonna finally give this a lot of thought and present it and see if it's doable.
The other concern I had is the width of Brownsville, Dr. Briley. You're putting extra traffic down it now if you reroute.
Yes.
And you're putting pedestrian traffic down it with your race route is on the same road.
Yes.
If you were gonna reroute to another way, it might be better not to use Brownsville and maybe go up to, take a right up Middleborough Road and take a left onto like Ann Recker, go down that way. It would just, there's still gonna be at the end when Dr. Briley meets, there's still gonna be some area there, but I don't know of any other way to reroute traffic around and not merge the two together.
So-
Go ahead.
I think that the one lane gives us the best option because we're not detouring trucks and other vehicles, mixing them with pedestrians down Brownsville Drive. We're simply stopping traffic for whatever the designated interval is, and then it moves through. In the meantime, since it's down to one lane, Mark will have enough space to mark off cones to protect runners and cyclists on one side of the road. I don't know.
So, my fear is about balance again. First of all, you probably don't know, but there's some people that don't want this in town at all. I personally feel it's a good thing, and I like having it in town. It gives notoriety to the town, it's a good thing, promotes health, blah, blah, blah. But, so I think that if you stop putting people out, you're gonna see them come forward next year and not wanna have this even more louder. So I think that whatever we do, we have to be conscious of not holding up traffic to the point where it's gonna get people so mad, and then also being thoughtful of whether we are gonna go through Brownsville or not. And I don't know if either scenario is gonna make people happy.
Yeah, one of the issues with holding traffic up and letting traffic proceed is you're actually gonna have choke points again on those other two, because traffic's gonna be flowing, one officer's gonna let the traffic flow one direction, and then there's the officer in the middle is gonna stop and say, to let traffic go in or out of Cathedral Camp, pedestrian traffic, bicycle traffic. So it's gonna be a coordinated, four-headed monster really trying to control traffic through there. You get somebody waiting in traffic for 5 minutes, he finally gets a chance to go, and then
Road rage.
you drive 100 feet and then you stop again because they're letting 10 bicycles go in front of you. Then you have to, you know what I'm saying? It's not a normal situation.
I mean, I know you're gonna prepare and you're gonna tell everybody and blah, 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 but that, and I'm thankful for the communication, but I'm just fearful that it's gonna create a hornet's nest.
Might I ask how, I'm always looking for feedback, and over the years, I've heard very, limited, negative feedback. I'm just wondering if you could talk more about that, because I mean, I certainly am aware of this creates inconvenience for some people, you
Right.
know? So I'm just curious, how much of an issue has that been? If there's a way you can answer.
One year it was an issue.
Okay.
And no one here was on the board at that time.
Okay.
1 year it was an issue. And
Okay.
you were here, right, Ally? And we talked about trash and, then the bikes taking over the road and blah, blah, blah. So but we squashed it. But I don't wanna create
I
an
don't either.
environment, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like everything's going
yeah,
well, I don't
yeah.
wanna create
Okay.
it so it starts to get people really upset about whatever's going on. They know it's coming, I know, but when we infringe on a neighborhood and when we hold up traffic,
Yeah.
I don't wanna create a hornet's nest and have everybody.
Right.
It'd really be nice if there wasn't two street crossings. If you took off, because that's the only issue, I was trying to, in my mind, picture a different way you might be able to, if you put all the traffic up, it's counterintuitive to the, which would be the north there, Cathedral Camp, the north lane. You wouldn't have to have traffic stop for vehicles going by, but then when you cross to go to Roundsville, you're still gonna have traffic stop there for people, pedestrians to cross to go, or runners to cross to go to Roundsville.
And this is on a Sunday or a
Saturday.
Saturday?
Saturday.
There's no weddings, right, with the church?
I mean, they wouldn't be, we always communicate to let them know, so, it hasn't been an issue.
Okay.
That's my biggest fear, you got two crosses, you gotta cross the street twice with traffic, so,
You're talking about here and here?
yeah. If you could put everything maybe on the pedestrians and the bicycles mixed together, and you could probably split those lanes if you wanted to, have a cone lane, like the chief said, on the divider line, on the double solids, and then maybe split off your bike and running lane, so you give them a 3-foot running lane, or maybe a 10-foot bike lane, and then the other side is for purely traffic. Put it on the north side, as on the return trip, there's no crossing there.
Right.
It would be, and you can even reroute the traffic coming in that fork there, so the traffic has to use the left lane. It's not merging through. It would be a dead stop and then turn.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So you're suggesting getting this line onto this side,
Right.
and then and
All the
one
traffic
lane
staying
that-
to the southern side of that road,
Yep.
on the opposite side. You're still gonna have a stop point there where runners come out on the other side, but
Right.
I don't see a way around that, unless your route is different.
How long is the detour?
8:30 to 1.
No, mile-wise.
0.6.
0.6.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. That's the concern I would have about doing the one lane and then the other alternating, is that you've got a little more than a half a mile, so it's kind of long. And you're gonna have an officer having to tell, okay, my last car is such and such. And then the other officer's gonna have to wait till that car clears
Right.
before he lets his traffic go forward.
Right.
And what you're gonna do is you're gonna see people who are gonna start, oh, I can get down Roundsville Drive. They're gonna wanna do it.
They're gonna create their own.
Right.
They got create their own, you know.
What I was afraid of is he'd let stop traffic and 4 or 5 cars would go, and then one of the other officers would stop them. And there would, the self-officer would see a break and say, okay, instead of traffic, now you have traffic.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
You know?
So, even though, to some extent, letting it go would be the kind of more logical, it's all the illogical things that gotta happen with it.
Yep. No, I mean, just as you're saying, this officer says, okay, the last car, Volkswagen Bug, and that's what they're looking for, but they're coming in here to park.
Exactly.
So that's where,
It's, having done many a paving detail, I know about such things, and it can get confusing.
The flag,
Yes.
last time you give the
That's-
Give him the
flag.
flag and he gives the hands it off.
Actually, that was,
That works.
yeah, Yeah.
Just get one of those magnetic flags, stick it on the front hood.
They keep going.
The other thing that I know you mentioned sending a card out to them, but maybe to lessen the blow is if we had basically a little bit of a hearing to hear these people's concerns if they do have it. Then at least those concerns are vented.
Sure.
And then the other thing is they know in advance,
Yep.
it's not, they hear about this 2 weeks, and, 2 weeks before it happens.
Right.
Maybe we could do it.
Well, we could put it on the agenda and just let those people know that, to come in.
Well,
maybe.
he had mentioned sending out cards.
Yeah, I actually do that already, like along the bike route, I send out a postcard.
But
to
maybe
let
if we
people
could do
know.
this, maybe sometime in January or so.
Yeah, alerting them to a meeting, upcoming meeting.
Right, right.
And what area do you want him to disseminate the,
Definitely the affected areas.
All of this
Maybe-
Freetown? I mean,
You're up for reelection, so that's up to you.
yeah, it's a lot.
I would say the Brownsville area.
Wow.
Definitely Roundsville, definitely Middleborough, probably, Middleborough at least a half a mile before and after.
Sure. Yeah,
Um,
they,
Really, it might
I'm
be
pretty
easy
sure,
just to all easy.
I have to go back and look at it, I make an effort to send a postcard to everyone on the bike course.
Yeah.
So that would already cover all these people. What I saw as addition was definitely the whole Roundsville, Dr. Brantley, but, anyway.
Just anybody, I'll
Sure.
think more, because you're gonna have traffic stoppages all the way down. I don't know how
Yep.
far the bike costs. Same thing with, Middleborough to the north there, instead of going up Morton, because your bike route goes up Morton, but you're gonna have traffic stops up, Middleborough Road towards this town line.
all of those people living in that estate up there too utilize that road?
Right.
Yeah, but they're used to that.
Right.
So I'm more worried about the detour into Roundsville.
If he
Like,
goes that way.
everybody already knows that this is gonna happen, so I'm just worried about changing what we're doing right now, and then also if we decide to detour into Roundsville, that's where I'm worried about. They already know what's gonna happen, if it happens,
Yeah.
they know that.
I mean,
Change is really scary, and I guess,
I'll-
for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I thought a lot about, this is our 12th year, it's not like I just thought of it.
Right.
So it's definitely been something, that it has worked, and so, but I just know, it's always this, I got, this activity is hectic, and again, I'm always talking to the officers, how's it going, and, so it's one of these things that I just felt like, maybe now's the time, finally time to give this a try. Based on the feedback I'm hearing, I feel more strongly about not sending people into Roundsville, and if we could do the one-lane execution, where this officer talks to that officer, and then, we still have the issue we talked about where, knowing which is the last one, but that does not create any additional activity here, other than maybe some cars that are like, oh, I'm not gonna wait, I'm gonna cut through, which I don't, that'll be incremental, but not as much as if we're literally sending them all there.
But maybe that's a stepping stone, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe if people say, okay, well, I'm gonna detour into Roundsville, and then you see more people do it, and somebody says, well, why don't they just do that altogether?
Right.
Then maybe the following year, it's something to consider again.
And you currently propose to have an officer there anyhow, so there might be, the officer might see if there's a lot of traffic detouring in and becoming an issue, he could, close it to local traffic only,
Yeah.
or
Yep. I mean, the other thing I
we
could
could even put
do.
signage of local traffic only for the day, temporary.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing I could do to solve the parking issue, which is something I did last year for the first time, was we were not, because this is where a lot of cars park, so you do have cars coming in and leaving, and so what we did this year was we only allowed them to turn left in, so that we wouldn't have cars turning right in front of bikes. And that worked better. So I could literally, stick with that plan, and that also, so that way any cars that do, these guys would be able to park, but these wouldn't, and they just have to do it around. But, yeah.
The other thing is that if we can get a road width, if it's a wider road layout, you might be able to still have 2 lanes and have your coneage, your cone lane. So that might be something you wanna touch base with the highway surveyor and see what see what the actual road widths are and figure out what you need for minimums. You know, if you need 8 feet in between the fog lane, the two driving lanes, if you have more than 20 feet, 28 feet, you might be able to get away with not going through all this and still maintaining lanes. You're still gonna have some officers because you're crossing traffic.
Mark, have you ever had a traffic count?
I have not.
That might be
Yeah, it's a heavily.
a good piece of information to
Yeah.
have, actually see
Yep.
what's going on.
Is that anything like MassDOT would have, or anybody?
They may,
Yeah.
they may, or we may be.
If you go up to the Mass DOT website, kind of search around, they do have traffic counts. You
Okay.
can click on that, and sometimes they break it down, in this case, northbound versus southbound volumes.
Would they have days, chief, versus,
No, they wouldn't,
I wanna say like Saturday is heavier than Sunday, or,
no, they would, I think they would just have the,
On
a
average.
24-hour count.
So, can you work on this and then possibly come back?
Yes, so just, so to wrap up,
yeah.
are we saying, we don't wanna do this, we don't wanna go into we don't wanna detour into Roundsville, but you're receptive to the 1 lane back and forth? If, I honestly don't think we could have two-way traffic and the additional cone line. Because then, you know, if you put a cone in, there's gonna be a buffer around it by both the car and the bike. And that basically squeezes the road. So I don't think that would be feasible, but I do think, you know, if you guys are receptive to it, you know, the 1 lane, you know, where it's northbound for X interval and then southbound, you know, after that. If you all are receptive to that, then that would be what I would want to pursue.
It might be good to plan on like a message board.
Sure.
Put up maybe even, 2 or 3 weeks
Yep.
in advance.
Yep.
This guy expect delays.
Yeah, I would definitely put, like a poster up in, all of the, Quick Pick and mobile and,
Right.
those,
Okay, yep.
just so you can alert them to whatever's gonna be changing.
If you get that to us, we can put it on our Facebook, and I'm sure that Ally can put it, or arrange to have it put on the town as well.
Do we wanna make a motion tonight, or do we wanna have them research it, make sure that this is how we want to do it?
Yeah, why don't we
Yeah,
hold
I
off
mean,
and wait for 2 weeks?
Because you haven't gone to MassDOT, have you?
No, I did actually. That's who I met with first, and then they said, well, you gotta first have the towns, give their approval and support. So, that would be my next step once, you all are approved.
Chief, would you be willing to sit down with him, well, both chiefs actually, go over it and make sure this is actually the way you wanna do it, and this is the best thing, maybe even take a look in your time, just drive by the areas,
Yeah,
to
we
make
can
sure
do
that everything's, so that way in 2 weeks we can
Also, talk to, some of the officers that have done
detail
put
it.
details
I'll look
over
and
there.
see who did them in the
Yeah,
past.
and, let's get some feedback from them
Yeah.
as well, because
I
they're the
know
ones that are most affected.
There's one location they kind of complained about.
Okay.
And I think we've got the vehicles, but also people crossing to go into the camp, and bicycles.
Are they line of sight? Can they see each other?
No, they won't be able to.
You get that
Is that what you see?
These guys
If a
can.
straggler was caught in between
Although, actually.
the car with the eyes on him?
Maybe not, I mean, there's cars
So
and
many
you're at
things, yeah,
Rounds,
it's
and it's like,
Yeah.
it's not dependable.
Right, but does he see the next guy and this guy sees that guy, like daisy chain down to the,
Well,
they have
yeah,
line of
that's
sight?
possible,
Instead of radio
That way any
communication.
car caught in the middle of the cop would see.
yeah. But that's assuming that everybody has the same radio. Because what happens is, we put the detail out, and these details are mostly populated by out-of-town officers, who may or may not bring a portable radio with them. This radio may or not be equipped to talk to us.
So they need radios on frequency.
They should bring a radio with them that's capable of talking on either the Bristol County Regional or the Plymouth County Regional, and we could operate off of that.
Do we have enough radios to issue them radios with details for the day?
Geez, I don't, I think we've got 3 spare radios. Maybe.
All right, so can we put them back on the agenda for the next meeting?
I think if you get together with the chiefs and, go over your plan again,
Okay.
get any input that you can from, have you had any medical calls up there, or had to respond?
Not
Or
too many. Most of them are basically first aid. I think one year was really, really hot.
do you have a detail there?
Yeah, we have a heavy detail there.
With
We have an ambulance there, we have a small fire truck.
you have a
and
station, you set up a,
They have a first aid station, we have paramedics there also. So we're on the water, we're on with the ambulance, we have a guy doing the sweep in the pickup truck, so we got a heavy presence there.
You
So I
have
think
some-
as far as response,
You have-
we're good.
you have a boat in the water too?
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you. I appreciate it.
Sorry, it's a little more in depth than normal.
No,
This is a change, so.
This is, the vetting process is very valuable, so.
What do we have left?
So maybe I'll
You.
email both you
Yeah.
chiefs to figure out a time.
Yeah.
Try to get
Personnel.
together.
We'll take a ride up there and see how wide it is and what the condition of the shoulders are.
Depending on where it is, if you're interested, I might take a ride with you, and that way I can speak intelligently next time.
Okay.
At least about something.
Aw,
God knows I'm going bald.
God knows I'm old, teaching everybody in the room.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, front of the Board of Personnel, I guess I am this year. We have a certificate of appointment for Lisa Desmaris, 18 East.
Lori.
Have a good night.
Try that again. Laurie Desmaris, for Cultural Council, effective October 6, 2017 to October 6, 2020. What is your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
We have a motion made and second to approve. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
We have a certificate of appointment for Kevin Desmaris. I don't know if they know each other. Also to the Cultural Council, effective October 6, 2017, term expires October 6, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 That's it for personnel.
That's it. So, dates for upcoming Board of Selectmen's meeting. Special town meeting, October 23rd, and then we have November 6th, November 20th, December 4th, and December 18th.
Will we be meeting prior to the special town meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because, actually, we, have not voted on any recommendations.
Okay.
So we need to vote on our recommendations. Like, yeah, we put them all in, but we, the board, have not voted to recommend or not recommend.
Okay.
So I think that would be done at least, so when we go into town meeting, we're all on the same page. Okay.
Did you miss 2 items? Town administrator's report and goals.
Oh, and
We've
all
had-
of our
had one for
jumping
so long.
around, so sorry.
I'm happy to see this back on the agenda, actually.
Yeah.
Look how
Okay, go ahead.
Look how skinny the signature file is.
I just want to let the board know that I've set up a date for the first department head meeting, which is going to be held on Wednesday, the 25th at 1:30. I'm also in the process of scheduling a finance team meeting sometime in the next 3 or 4 weeks. It's just basically to go over, the process for the budget and to address any outstanding financial issues that any of the individuals might have and work on it collectively as a team. I'm going to be attending a procurement seminar December 12th, 13th, 14th in Lowell. There are 3 seminars that I need to attend to become officially certified as a procurement officer. Even though I have in the past, in prior positions, held that position since I've returned to town government, the process has become a little bit more formalized than it had been previously. So I'm going to work on getting those 3 courses and be officially sanctioned by the state as a chief procurement officer. I had a meeting with the building inspector and the Freetown Historical Commission, Mary Brown, and the other members of the commission, basically to go over the school window project, basically looking at, future projects and how we're going to proceed with those, as well as outlining some procedures so that when we come up to the point of where we have to bid those projects, we're all on the same page in terms of what we need to develop as a specification. We have received the Riverfront Park draft environmental report, which is available in the Selectmen's office. I just wanted the board to be aware of that, so if you want to stop in and take a look at it, I've read probably 35, 40 pages of it. It's a thicker document than 30 or 40 pages, it's probably a couple hundred, so I'm chipping away at it like everybody else. We did receive a cable notice from Comcast. Our contract expires on October 11, 2020, which is just around the corner. But what they're recommending is that we establish or reestablish our cable advisory committee. I don't know if it's active at this point or not, because they will be the negotiating body that will assist the board in developing a new contract or revising the existing contract. And once again, they'll come back to the board, basically giving some direction to that committee in terms of what feedback you've gotten from the residents regarding what they feel are things that should be in the contract that currently are not, or services that should be provided that are currently not being provided. I did meet with Bob about Free Lake and cable, and I still haven't gotten a proposal from them, so I don't know what, I'll follow up on that, I guess, at this point. We're having a warrant pregame meeting on Wednesday with the town moderator, just basically to go over the warrant and to review the articles, and I guess that the purpose is to help look at some of how the motions are. It's helping them develop the motions, so that will be on Wednesday. I've had some discussions with members regarding the South Main Street Bridge, and there's a general feeling that we should maybe have it on the agenda as an executive session item, because there are some things that need to be worked out regarding the parties, and where we'd like to talk about that in terms of a strategy. With some on the next couple meetings, we got the tax classification hearing, which we've scheduled for November 20th, 2017. The goals for the town administrator will probably be on the next agenda, and that's it, I guess.
Okay. Thank you. Questions from the board?
Almost set.
There's only one other thing that on the next meeting, the abbreviated meeting that we have on the 23rd prior to town meeting, there are 2 small items on. One is to look at or approve the town accountant's contract and sign it. So it'll be done before November 1st. And also, Maya has come forward with the renewal for the retirees, and we're having a meeting with them on Thursday. But once again, because it's November 1st, in terms of a renewal date, we're going to make a request at this point to be placed on the agenda so we could sign off on that also.
Did you make that meeting with the Insurance Advisory Committee?
Yes, it's
Okay.
on for Thursday. So that's basically what I've been up to and been doing.
All right. Any questions? No?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so with that being said, discuss goals for David DeMont. I know that we talked about, the three of us, writing down what our goals are for him going forward. When do you want to get together to do that? This fly.
No, that's good.
I
Don't
can't
stop
take
swinging
it.
this way.
He keeps going down the table and coming back.
I don't know, are you guys going to the building committee meeting?
I'll be there.
Do you want to go like 15 minutes earlier?
Sure.
So we still have time to put that on the agenda? Yeah. Okay, so why don't we plan on coming 15 minutes earlier, and the three of us, huh?
We'll be meeting at 5:15.
Yeah, so we can sit down and go over what our goals are, and then we can have Ally, I'll send them off to Ally can draw them up, and then on the 23rd, we can sit down and go over them with the town administrator.
Okay.
Is that good?
Fine.
Perfect. Is that good?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Did we miss anything else, Ally? All righty. Okay, here we go. Executive session. Motion to go into executive session and not to come back out in open session for Chapter 30A, Section 21A, in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel and to conduct contract negotiations with non-union personnel, Kimberly Fields, Town Accountant. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the town hall, library, highway union, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares. And Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Excel Recycling versus Lisa Pacheco, Robert Josen, Charles Sullivan, individually and as members of the Board of Selectmen. What's the board's pleasure?
Make a motion that we go into executive session.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
And Ms.